Hamilton shocks the world. What really happened during the Bahrain tests is not what the headlines told you. Forget the flashy lap times, forget the social media clips, forget everything you thought you understood about pre-season testing, because behind the scenes, something far more important was happening, and Ferrari did not want this story to dominate the conversation. While the paddock focused on surface-level numbers, Lewis Hamilton was operating on a completely different layer of reality. This was not about one perfect lap. This was not about impressing cameras or silencing critics for a day. This was about building something quietly, methodically, and with purpose. The Bahrain pre-season test became a maze of hidden intentions, a place where teams revealed only what they wanted others to see. And while rivals chased attention, Hamilton was laying the foundation for something much bigger, something designed not for Saturday headlines, but for Sunday victories. What you're about to hear is not speculation, it's not hype, it's the story told by data, by long runs, by patterns that only appear when you know exactly where to look. Because while the world was distracted, Hamilton was preparing a move that could redefine the entire 2026 season. And once you understand what Ferrari and Hamilton were really doing in Bahrain, you'll never look at those test results the same way again. What separated Bahrain from every other pre-season test was not a single lap time. It was not a purple sector. It was not a short burst designed to grab attention. The real story lived inside the race simulations, the long runs where championships are actually decided. This is where the noise disappears. No glory runs, no empty fuel tricks, just consistency, degradation, balance and control. And this is exactly where Lewis Hamilton delivered something that forced the paddock to quietly take notes. Across multiple long stints, Hamilton's pace did not spike and fade. It held lap after lap, tyre after tyre. While others showed flashes of speed, Hamilton showed something far more dangerous: repeatability, the kind of rhythm that wins races when pressure builds and margins disappear. This wasn't about being fastest once. It was about being fast every time it mattered. And when analysts began lining up the data, despite different track conditions, fuel loads and run plans, a pattern became impossible to ignore. When the cars entered true race mode, Hamilton's numbers stood at the top. That is not coincidence, that is not luck, that is preparation meeting execution. And in Formula One, when a driver dominates the long runs, it sends a message louder than any qualifying lap ever could. Because championships are not won in moments, they are won in patterns. Here's where the story gets uncomfortable for the competition, because Bahrain was not a controlled lab. It was chaos by design. Different fuel loads, different run plans, different track evolution, different temperatures. On paper, the data should have been messy and inconclusive, but it wasn't. When analysts stripped away the noise and aligned the stints, one truth remained. The numbers refused to lie. No matter how many variables you introduced, the outcome kept pointing in the same direction. When Ferrari shifted into full race execution mode, Lewis Hamilton was right there at the top of the order. This wasn't a perfect scenario engineered to flatter him. It was the opposite. It was imperfect, raw, and brutally honest. And that's why it mattered. Because true performance doesn't disappear when conditions change. It adapts. It survives. Hamilton's pace held even as the track evolved, even as tyres degraded, even as others dropped off. That kind of resilience doesn't come from luck. It comes from a driver who understands exactly what the car is doing underneath him, and a car that finally responds to that understanding. This is why Bahrain mattered, not because of headlines, but because it revealed something deeper, a signal, a warning, a message that the balance of power might be shifting again. And when Hamilton is armed with data instead of hope, the entire grid starts paying attention. Ferrari didn't just bring upgrades to Bahrain, they delivered something far more valuable, the one thing Lewis Hamilton had been searching for through years of frustration. A car that finally speaks his language: predictable, stable, honest over long stints. Not a weapon that bites back when pushed, but one that rewards precision and patience. This was the real breakthrough. The new aerodynamic package wasn't about peak downforce or flashy gains on a timing screen. It was about balance, a front end that stays planted, a rear that doesn't fade when the tyres begin to suffer, a platform that allows Hamilton to manage a race instead of fighting the car every lap. In Bahrain, you could see it in the way the laps flowed together. No corrections, no sudden drop-offs, no visible struggle, just control. And when a driver like Hamilton reaches that state, something dangerous happens for everyone else, because this is the version of Hamilton that wins championships, not the one chasing speed, but the one dictating it, the one who can stretch a stint, protect tyres, attack when it matters, and disappear when rivals are still calculating. What Ferrari unlocked in Bahrain wasn't a headline, it was a foundation, and foundations don't scream, they hold. Even the moment that looked like a setback ended up reinforcing the message. The late stoppage on track, the car slowing, the red flag. To some, it looked like a problem. To those paying attention, it looked like proof. Ferrari wasn't protecting the car, they were pushing boundaries, fuel tests, extreme margins, real race scenarios taken to the edge. That's not something you do when you're hiding weaknesses. That's something you do when confident enough to stress the system and learn where it breaks. Hamilton stepped out of the car calmly. No frustration, no anger, just data collected and work completed. By the end of the day, he had logged an extraordinary number of laps, the kind of mileage teams only attempt when reliability is already understood. This matters because championships aren't won by avoiding limits. They're won by knowing exactly where those limits are. Ferrari needed answers, not comfort, and Hamilton delivered them. When a team allows a driver to run that deep into test programs, it signals trust. When a driver handles it with composure, it signals readiness. That brief interruption didn't stop momentum, it confirmed it, because nothing about Bahrain suggested uncertainty, it suggested preparation. What happened in Bahrain did not go unnoticed. Even if no one wanted to say it out loud, the paddock felt it. When teams began comparing race simulations internally, one conclusion kept resurfacing. Ferrari and Mercedes were setting the reference, and within Ferrari, Lewis Hamilton was the benchmark. Rivals understand what this means. When Hamilton has a car that behaves over long runs, the entire strategic landscape changes. Overtakes become inevitable. Tyre management becomes a weapon. Pressure shifts from the driver to everyone trying to keep up. This is why experienced team principals started choosing their words carefully. No bold predictions, no dismissive comments, just caution, respect. Because history has taught them what happens when Hamilton smells a real opportunity. This wasn't a fluke, it wasn't testing illusion, it was a controlled message delivered through data. And data is the one thing you cannot argue with. For the first time in years, Hamilton is not asking the car to survive the race, he's asking it to obey, and it is responding. When that happens, championships stop being theoretical, they become mathematical. This is the part fans need to understand. 2026 is not about reinvention, it's about alignment. Hamilton doesn't need to prove speed, he doesn't need to relearn how to win. What he needs is a car that allows him to apply everything he already knows, and that's exactly what Bahrain revealed. For the first time in a long while, the tools match the talent. The feedback loop is clean. The car reacts, the data confirms it, and when preparation meets execution at this level, momentum becomes inevitable. Hamilton's greatest strength has never been raw aggression, it has been intelligence under pressure, the ability to read a race 10 laps ahead, to conserve when others burn, to strike when others hesitate. Those skills only matter when the car lets them breathe. That's why Bahrain matters so much. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it was quiet confidence built on repeatable performance, the kind that carries through an entire season. For fans who never stop believing, this is not blind hope, it's evidence, because when Hamilton enters a season with rhythm, trust in the car and strategic clarity, history shows one outcome tends to follow, and the grid knows it. Now the question is no longer if Lewis Hamilton is ready, the question is whether the rest of the grid is ready for what's coming. Bahrain didn't give us noise, it gave us signals hidden inside long runs, fuel programs, tyre behaviour and calm execution, signals that only appear when a team is building for something bigger than headlines. Ferrari didn't show everything, they showed enough, and Hamilton did the rest. This is not a prediction built on emotion, it's not nostalgia, it's not blind loyalty, it's a conclusion drawn from data, behaviour and intent. The kind of conclusion that only appears when preparation replaces improvisation. If this foundation holds, 2026 won't be about survival, it will be about control. So now it's your turn. Do you believe this is the beginning of another championship run for Lewis Hamilton, or do you think the grid still has an answer waiting? Share this analysis, join the discussion and leave your comment below, because the real battle of the season is just getting started.